Everyone, welcome to another Product People community event. We're really excited to have all of you here. For everyone that is joining us again, very happy to have you here again. And for everyone that's joining for the first time, also very excited to have you join us tonight. I think for a lot of us, this is a very interesting topic. We're going to talk about opportunity mapping tonight with a senior product manager at trivago. His name is Sören Weber. I tried my best to say it in the correct German way, so I hope I said that correctly. But before we jump into the discussion on opportunity mapping, just quickly want to tell you a little bit about myself. So my name is Stefan. I work for Product People. And I've had some experiences within the banking industry, mobility industry, B2B SaaS procurement and integrations, and then also in software development kits and things like that. Started off as an attorney, but then went over into product management. And I'm, as you can see with the background, I'm in Cape Town in South Africa. So a little bit about Product People. So what do? We're really passionate about product management, obviously, and we like to onboard fast, align teams, and deliver outcomes. We work best on an interim basis, about 3 and more months as product managers, product ops, product leaders, and we're really very passionate about helping companies discover and deliver great products faster. So that's the one part of what we love doing. But then there's also the other part. That's what we're doing tonight. And that's having these community events and sharing knowledge generously with the people in the product management community, which you are now a part of. And we're about 17,000 people strong. So that's really cool. And you're also part of one of those numbers now. But just before we start jumping now into the actual discussion about opportunity mapping, we'd like to just have an icebreaker 2-question for you that you can answer. And there's no wrong answer here, so you can really just tell us what you think. If you're on Zoom, you'll see that there is going to be a poll that's popping up and you can just vote on that. If you're on any of the other channels like YouTube or LinkedIn, any of those streaming channels, you can just let us know in the comment section. So the first question is, opportunity mapping is one thing, but what about solution testing? Would you say that continuous discovery is the silver bullet for product discovery? And the things that you can choose from is yes, no, don't know. And the second question is, what would you recommend to pilot continuous discovery in an organization? So you can choose between design thinking, setting outcomes, mapping opportunities, mapping solutions, or it depends on the situation. So I think a lot of us have heard a lot about continuous discovery. It's been a hot topic for a while now, especially with books on the topic and everyone trying to do their best to map these things out. Do you think it is really the silver bullet for product discovery, or do you think there's something else that's actually going to have to be added to that, or something better, or it hasn't worked so well for you? Or what do you think? I think we're all very kind of in tune with this topic these days and trying to get better and better at this. I haven't seen any answers coming through on the channels yet, but I see on Zoom, there's about 63% of us that are saying that we don't know if it's the silver bullet or not. And there's 38% of us that's saying, yes, it is the silver bullet for product discovery. And then on the second question, what would you recommend to pilot continuous discovery in an organization? The biggest one here with 63% is saying mapping opportunities. And then the second biggest one is with 38% mapping solutions. And then we also have someone on YouTube who's saying, yes, it's the silver bullet. And for what would you recommend to pilot continuous discovery in an organization? So saying setting the outcomes, which I think is also really, really important. But I think you didn't join this call to listen to me speaking the whole time. So I'm going to be handing over to Sören right now. I think all of us have at least heard of trivago, and a lot of us have used trivago. So I think that's why it's really going to be interesting to hear from their senior product manager about opportunity mapping. So I'm going to be unsharing my screen and giving it over to Sören.
Cool. Thanks a lot, Stefan. Let me share my screen. Cool. I hope you all see it now.
Yes, we can see it.
Nice. Thank you. Cool. Thanks a lot, Product People, for hosting this. I think this is a great format. And I would like to talk about continuous discovery and how we applied it at trivago today. So this will be a very quick introduction to the continuous discovery approach, but then we quickly dive into the actual lessons learned and practical experience we get at trivago. So this is more about like, how does it actually work? And it did work for us quite well, but we needed to tailor it quite a bit as well. And we're still kind of in the middle of the journey. And this is what we are going to share today. To dive in, maybe a quick intro to my person before we get into the content. So my background is in computer science and business. So I was always at the intersection of business and technology. So there I have been for a longer time now, but I made a move to product management like 4 years ago. So in that sense, relatively young to product management, but obviously I could also apply a lot of things I have done previously. So just you see some highlights on the right side. So I did my own Web 2.0 startup, which you can see at the bottom. It looks quite old and Web 2.0, and it's already kind of 14 years ago when we did it next to the studies. But this is how I got into kind of web development. I worked for Bertelsmann as well, and then I spent over 6 years at Accenture Strategy, where we focused on digital strategies and stuff. And then I wanted to get back into more entrepreneurial setting and move to trivago. And as Stefan said, I think most of you know what it is, kind of a meta search for hotels. Some people call it the Google for hotels, and this is what really we are specializing on. And we cover like 5 million hotels. We have over 1,000 employees. And we used to have 1 billion revenue, with the recent setbacks with the pandemic. Currently, it's a bit lower, but this is kind of where we're at. It was founded 15 years ago, so it's quite a mature product, but still going strong. And with that, I would like to go to the actual topic, which is continuous discovery. And I will do a quick tour on what are we talking about. So product discovery is kind of one part of product management, and the other part is product delivery. I think that's a useful concept to keep in mind. And if you think of what has been done on the delivery side, so when I started my career, Agile was a big thing. There was the Agile Manifesto, Scrum, everyone was talking about it. The problem with these Agile methodologies was, okay, it gives you right tools to prioritize your backlog, but where does the backlog come from in the first place? And this question wasn't really answered by all the Agile methodologies. And that's actually the part of product discovery, deciding what to build. And it seems like this has been a bit underemphasized, and there was more focus on delivery. This is also what someone like Marty Kagan from Inspired is kind of advocating. We also need to be more iterative on the discovery side. And if you look at both, for discovery, the goal is to learn fast. And for delivery, the goal is to ship fast. And on the discovery side, even though it's underemphasized compared to delivery, but it is evolving quite rapidly, especially in the recent years. We saw a couple of new practices and tools regarding how to do discovery right. So we have lean UX, customer development, like the whole lean startup mindset is also going in that direction. We have jobs to be done, really thinking from the user first, design thinking. All of this is going into the direction of making discovery more mature and more predictable. Maybe one assumption is, why is discovery underemphasized? Because it's a bit more fuzzy, it's a bit more creative. It's more like the art part in product management, whereas delivery is a bit more straightforward. So this might be a reason. Nevertheless, it is very important. And one other practice which was emerging is kind of the notion of continuous discovery. And there's a definition from Teresa Torres, and there are a couple of components in there. So one key point is to have weekly touch points with customers. And this is what is kind of a light bulb moment also for us. So Teresa Torres is saying, okay, how can you actually make product decisions if you never talk to the people using it? And once you start doing it, it becomes really obvious. So, but we haven't done it before, like weekly touch points with customers, we haven't done it. So this is kind of one aspect. The other team is build the product by the team. So it shouldn't be just the product manager telling the team what to do, but the discovery should be done as a team. And it should be done in small research activities. So really like this iterative approach we have for agile delivery, like continuous integration. We ship every day, we have a release every day. Also do this on the discovery side and have small research activities there. And then the last one is about in pursuit of a desired outcome. So why are we doing this in the first place? So we don't want to fall into the build trap and just have a lot of output, but we don't move the needle at all. So these are kind of the key building blocks of continuous discovery. There might be different definitions, but I think the one of Teresa Torres is quite helpful, and she's kind of pioneering this concept, obviously. And there she is. I mean, most of the stuff is based on her theory. And she has kind of the book you also mentioned, Stefan. This came out last year, is very popular, but she was actually sharing a lot of her content already on her blog, Product Talk. And then also around 1 year ago, they started to launch these masterclasses. And this kind of the combination we also used. So of course we have read the book, we have read the blog, but actually the course was then also kind of a good accelerator for us. This is where it's coming from. And now we dive into the actual framework from Teresa Torres. So it's very high level. And I definitely recommend to go deep on the topics. And I want to start with the idea of the right mindset. So some people think, okay, there's a methodology from Teresa Torres and it gives me the right tools and then I just apply it and then I'm done. It's in there, but it's not the whole story. But we have to start with changing our mindset as well. So if you don't change your mindset, no tool will help you to achieve the discovery goals you have. And the key mindsets Teresa is advocating, you can see on the right, already touched on it. So you have to start with an outcome. What do you want to achieve in the first place? You have to be user-centric, which also you need to talk to them. How can you be user-centric otherwise? Collaborative, you do it as a team. And then she also has some, it should be visual, like all the artifacts she's advocating for. It's very visual, experimental, and continuous. All kind of the idea. You are not doing kind of one big research activity for 6 weeks, and then you know everything, and then you go to delivery. But it's more like this dual track agile idea. You do discovery all the time, and you do delivery all the time in parallel. And then here you see kind of the actual tools and methodologies. And I think this is really the nice thing of the framework. It talks about the mindset and the foundation, but then also gives you very practical tools, because often then this is kind of where it stops. Okay, in theory, it makes sense, but how do you actually apply it? And I think this framework helps you also in applying it. And the key tools and methodologies are user interviews, opportunity solution tree or opportunity mapping, the assumption testing, and working in a product trio. And these are exactly the things we have applied at trivago, and this will also be the structure for the upcoming presentation on how we have applied it. So with that, I would like to leave kind of the theory part and getting into what have we actually done. So for that, I would like to start with the context and the situation, because I think it's very important when you apply the framework, you need to tailor it to the actual situation, and you need to understand what elements are more useful and what elements might be less useful. And for trivago, as already alluded to in the beginning, it is a very mature product. So we have focused on the hotel search since 15 years, and we found product market fit back then. So it worked, and we never extended to other verticals, like including flights or something. We really focused on building the best hotel meta search. And as you can imagine, over 15 years, we have optimized the product quite a bit. We have a very strong A/B testing capability. So we have done countless of A/B tests and iterations, and also discovery work. So it's very optimized. And this also means there are few obvious product improvements left. And this might be different to a startup where you have to build kind of some basic functionality. and there might be some obvious areas you need to cover. And here you need to dig a bit deeper to find improvement areas. But once you do that, you still find a ton of improvement areas. Like, as we all know, a tech product is never done. And if you look at the second part, how is our product organization working? And how was it before we applied continuous discovery? So we already established quite a lot of product practices, and we were working as cross-functional teams. We were centered around user problems and OKRs. I said we're a very strong A/B testing capability, and we always have kind of this data-informed decision-making. We also did a lot of foundational user research. So we have a separate user research team, around like 12 to 15 people, who are focusing on doing foundational user research. And they were talking to the user before, just the product teams themselves didn't do it. So it was already on a good level, but you can always do more. And we had a couple of growth areas. We say, okay, to level up our product organization, we should focus more on understanding the actual user needs and problems. So we had kind of a good output machine. So delivering stuff, A/B testing, but we were lacking a bit kind of the understanding of what problem are we trying to solve actually. Also on the solution ideation, we often came up with similar ideas, and sometimes we're looking for some more breakthrough ideas. So we optimize and then reach kind of a local maximum, and everything you do kind of makes the product worse, just looking from the data. And how can we kind of jump to another maximum and also have more bolder product changes? So this is what we were looking for. And also we spend a lot of effort doing these tests, because if you rely on A/B testing primarily, you need to build it. It's very expensive, as we know, and kind of how can we test more cheaply. So these are kind of the goals, and continuous discovery was helping us with that. And here, a high-level journey, how we adopted it. So as said, we already had a good foundation, and we also did other trainings. I mean, continuous discovery is not the only training out there. I think they're very good trainings. For example, we did the SVPG training with Marty Kagan. So this helped us to kind of set the foundation. He's also talking a lot about the mindsets, being user-centric. We had some OKR training. So we had some foundation, which I think is important. If you don't have a mature product organization, it's probably hard to put continuous discovery on top. And then we wanted to apply it. And actually, I was on the product team. I read a lot about Teresa Torres, and I was tinkering with the tools and methods. We kicked off user interviews, but to be honest, it was quite hard to, if you're the only person or just a few persons in the company, to really get this through, and really also to communicate to leadership that this is beneficial. Fortunately, we got some new people in who had experience with this framework before. So like a new user experience lead who has worked with Teresa before, and he was really committed. And then we had the leadership buy-in, and then we also started to do the masterclass training with Teresa and Hope. Teresa is partnering with another coach, and this was an excellent training. So we came together and learned about the framework, but then we also need to apply it in practice for our problems. So this was kind of the kickstart. But then we needed to apply it more sustainably. And this was kind of a journey. So the masterclass was just the starting point, and we needed to kind of tailor it to our situation. And every team did it a bit differently, but over time, we adopted more and more of it, and we also extended it to different teams. Actually, we had a second masterclass to teach more teams, and this also gave us as a team kind of a common language to discuss discovery. So this is how we ended up, and as you can see with the iterative cycle, it's still going on. It's still evolving how we do it, and we learn more and more over time. But we're now doing it for almost a year now. So I think it's a good time to look back and see what we have learned. And this is what I will cover next. So I will now go through the 4 building blocks and say how we applied it and what we have learned. And the first one is user interview. And this is what Teresa is advocating a lot. So you need to talk to the user. And this is really interesting because we haven't done this in a systematic fashion before. We only did it on demand. It was more on the side of usability testing. Okay, we have a solution idea, do usability test, maybe there we talk to user. But it was maybe once a month, not that often, not that systematic. And also it was more on the validating side, validating a solution. But here it should be more about generating opportunities. So what user needs are out there. And this was very new for us. And some key learnings is it's very good to make it a habit and have kind of at least one interview slot a week. And fortunately, I mean, we are kind of a bigger company. We have a team taking care of scheduling this. So we have a provider. We use UserZoom. There's also usertesting.com, where you can get the actual users for the testing. And they do the scheduling. So we do have 1 to 2 interviews a week in this calendar every week. So it's kind of, you do it in any case, no matter how much other things are going on. And our experience, if we don't do this, this is often getting deprioritized. Oh, I can do the user interview next week. And I think this is key. So that's how we can ensure we actually do it. And then what do you do in the actual interview? I mean, this was also in the beginning was very uncomfortable to do these interviews. So what do you ask the user? And there are some pitfalls you can learn into. And fortunately, we do have a user research team with skilled user researchers, and they helped us to come up with some guidelines. So you see some guidelines here in the image. And it's very basic. Avoid would-you questions, avoid asking what people want. And it's more like uncovering a story, what people actually did. So to really get to the needs and not let people say what they think they need. And also let them talk. Don't ask them yes or no questions. And these simple guidelines already helped us a lot. And then over time, you're getting more comfortable, you're getting better and better in this interview. But this was kind of a learning curve. But now actually everyone is doing it. We have engineers who were particularly uncomfortable with doing it, but we now have a couple of engineers who like to do it actually. And then the other thing, how much do we actually get out of the interview? And there we also experienced some problems because we had a very general research question, and then similar opportunities came up again and again, always the same. And after a couple of days, okay, how much value do we actually get of these interviews if they tell us the same every time? And then we kind of pivoted a bit and changed our research questions, so more flexible. And we also used the interviews for solution testing. So if we had some solution ideas, maybe some prototypes, we also used maybe the second half of the interview to use that. So to get more value out of the interview. And we experienced we should be more flexible. And you also don't know where the story is going from the user and really jump on something interesting when they're saying it. And then one last comment on user interviews is it shouldn't be the only source for your insights. There are a lot more, especially if you have a lot of traffic already, like we do. So we can get a lot of insights about the user behavior from looking at the current traffic, competitor insights, foundational user research. So there's a lot more. And I think Teresa is prioritizing user interviews quite a lot and say, okay, this should feed your opportunity map. In our experience, it's a valuable source, but it should be combined with other insights as well. So this will be on the user interview side. The second part is then the opportunities we identify in the interviews, how can we map them into an opportunity solution tree? And the opportunity solution tree, I'm not sure whether everyone is familiar with it, but it's kind of a key tool Teresa is advocating for. And it's a basic structure. So you start with the outcome. This is kind of the black line here. What do you want to influence? So in our case, it would be increase the number of unique micro conversions. So we would like to get people engaged with the website. Then we have the blue part, which is kind of the opportunities. And the opportunities, kind of a technical term, it's basically what's the user need, or we used to use user problem before. And then the yellow part is kind of all the solution ideas for each of these opportunities. And for us, it's a very helpful structure because it's kind of a one-stop shop. And the problem we had in the past, we had a lot of nice feature ideas, but they were kind of not connected to user problem. And it was really hard to see in one place where they connect to. And here we really have one-stop shop, all the opportunities, and we can really think, are we covering the main opportunities? Are there more opportunities? Should we do more interviews, look at other data? And it also helps us to prioritize. If you have all opportunities on the map, you can easily prioritize them. And the other thing is about the solution ideation. We found it very helpful to really focus on one leaf opportunity. So just one opportunity and really go deep. And by that, we were able to identify solutions we haven't thought of before, because often you stay like with the most obvious idea. But if you put the whole team in a room and spend 1 hour focusing on one opportunity, in our experience, we always came up with new innovative ideas. And if you do this kind of by priorities opportunity step by step, over time, you will come up with more innovative solutions. And this helped us a lot. And the question is, how do you come up with the opportunity map, how to structure it? So there we were struggling quite a lot. How to structure it, because there is no right solution. As said, it's a bit kind of the art part, and you could structure it in different ways. So there's not necessarily a distinction between all the user needs, but over time you can evolve it, and it is a helpful structure nevertheless. And we said, okay, it doesn't have to be perfect. There is no perfect opportunity solution tree, but it should be helpful for us to make decisions. And this is how we use it right now. And one last comment on this. So it's also very helpful to communicate to stakeholders. So we do this quarterly planning, OKR planning. We have a product strategy, and you can easily communicate for your team. How does it connect to strategy? What are the most important user problems we are focusing on? And from that, you can actually easily derive your OKRs. And then you can also say, we have these solution ideas in the pipeline to deliver on this objective. So in our experience, also very helpful, not only for your team and your own organization, but also for communicating to stakeholders. Next one is assumption testing. And as said, we were relying on A/B testing a lot, so more like doing costly assumption tests and experiments. And assumption testing was kind of a game changer to really think of what are cheaper ways of testing. And the structure of opportunity solution tree also helped us here, because you could pick one solution, you say we're focusing on that. And then for each solution, you can come up with what are actually the key assumptions we need to test. And here you can see kind of the 2x2 matrix, which is also shown in the framework from Teresa Torres. It's kind of how important it is to be true, and how much do we know already. Sometimes we already know a lot, then we don't need to test it. But sometimes we low confidence, and it's very important. So if this assumption is not true, then the solution would not work. So if you do this mapping, you can come up with the assumptions we would like to test, and then you can think of, okay, what is the cheapest way to test? And it's often not the prototype you need to build first, but it is sometimes a survey or just a click test where you just saw a prototype, which is not interactable. And we also use the tool User Zoom, where you can easily set up a test. And the first times we've done it was really kind of also one of these light bulb moments where you say, we launched the test, and within 1 hour we get the results. And this can then inform kind of the next test. And this was kind of really interesting experience to see like how fast it can actually be to get evidence. A challenge we experienced was to find the right balance between scientifically sound and good enough. Because our user researchers, they raised a lot of red flags. Okay, you can do this assumption test with the survey, but it has a lot of limitations, and how useful is the data actually? And I think they have a valid point, but on the other hand, we don't want to do like 6 weeks scientifically sound foundational user studies. We also want to be fast, and we would like to be a little bit more scientific, but we don't claim to be super scientific. And this is also what Teresa's advocating. Just gain a little bit evidence, and you can combine it. And when you do several assumption tests a week. This will give you a good enough picture, and you can then triangulate kind of the results. But this was definitely a challenge to find the right research method, and to kind of deal with the pitfalls which we have with every study. But now we have kind of a good pace. There's also kind of the saying from Marty Kagan, a good product team should have like 50 to 20 iterations a week. In our experience, this is quite a lot. So we are more like 2 to 5 iterations a week. And with iteration, I mean like kind of one assumption test, one test where you get some evidence whether your solution idea works or not. I actually raised the question also to Teresa. She was saying, okay, in her experience, a cadence of like 2 to 6 iterations is more realistic, and it's already kind of a good pace. So we aim at getting faster, but this is kind of how we approach assumption testing. And the last one is on how do we collaborate as a trio. So this is another concept. It shouldn't be just the product manager making the decision, but you do it as a team. And we applied that, and actually it was also very helpful. So first of all, it's more like these soft factors, right? It's more engaging and more motivating when working in a team. So you have the discussion as a team, and it's not you're sitting in a basement thinking about what to do next. So it's really more engaging, more motivating. And also, if you discuss it in team, you come up with more ideas naturally. Also, having the engineers involved also helps to get a buy-in from their side, because sometimes if you give like requirements to the engineering team and say, okay, why are we doing this? Why are we spending so much effort here? But if they're involved in the whole discovery, they don't have these questions, and they're also more committed to do this, because it's also kind of their ideas. Also here, we made the experience to make it a habit with regular meetings. So have a regular trio meeting, regular progress on the discovery. So we do have a discovery check-in, for example. So what did we learn last week? What are we planning to learn this week? And there we also invite product leads and design leads to also get their feedback and have this like every week. And this also creates some accountability. Okay, if we don't do any test this week, we have nothing to show next week. And we found this quite helpful. And yeah, ultimately you have better ideas if you discuss it in team than just the product manager. So this is kind of the 4 building blocks. And one last thing before we get to a practical example, actually, how does it work with a central user research team? I know not every company, especially smaller startups, they don't have this. But many bigger companies, scale-ups, they usually come up with a central user research team, which also makes sense because there's a lot of work to do, a lot of foundational research you would like to do, maybe exploring new product directions. But the question is, how does it fit together with continuous discovery? Because what continuous discovery is doing is actually democratizing the user research a bit and giving the power to the product teams. I mean, this is the whole idea. You actually don't need to use a researcher, you can do it yourself. And this caused some friction because they were kind of owning the user research, and now it's kind of within the teams. And of course, we in the team, we are not super skilled user researchers, and there are a lot of pitfalls to consider. And there were some concerns like, how can you actually do it? You don't have the education. Well, we said, okay, we want to be fast. And actually, we came up with a good middle ground where they keep kind of their focus on foundational research, which they own. But we also have embedded user researchers in the product teams. So they act more like user research coaches. And we can drive the product discovery in the team, but they consult us, they help us on how to set up the actual user research. And I think this is kind of a good middle ground we found and helped us a lot. And when we do this, we actually saw also a lot of synergies with the central user research team. So for example, we rely a lot on jobs to be done. So we have a jobs to be done map and a huge map of what the user actually wants to do. And this is actually a very good input for our opportunity solution tree. So we could focus on one aspect and we can use this. And the work we do in the teams, interviewing, talking to the user, also helps inform the jobs to be done efforts in the foundational research team. With that, I would like to give one practical example to make it a bit more tangible. So one opportunity we mapped was for users. So you have to think of a traveler using trivago searching for a hotel. And one user need we identified was, I wish it would take less effort to find hotels that meet my preferences. So we have a lot of users, they know what they want. I want a hotel with a pool at the beach. Just show me this. And they only want to see hotels that meet their preferences, and they want entering their preferences to be fast and easy. So this is one branch of the opportunity tree we covered. And then we took this opportunity, okay, I need entering my preference to be fast and easy. What can we do? And we did a solution ideation session, and then we clustered it and prioritized it as a team. And there, as you can see, a lot of solution ideas came out of it. And one idea was something we hadn't considered before. So we could maybe focus on one user segment. For us, it's SEM users who already typed in on Google what they wanted to see. So we have a lot of people searching for Hotel Amsterdam with a pool. And what can we do for these users? And this was kind of a new idea. So one idea was, okay, we could automatically apply the filter for pool, or we could make a filter suggestion. And then we moved these two ideas into assumption testing. And this is also an idea we should kind of test ideas against each other. This is more informative than just testing one idea. And we tested these against each other. We did a survey and a couple of assumption tests. And then it came out that we have some evidence that filter suggestion based on the Google input is something users want. And once we gathered enough evidence, which we gathered very cheaply, we actually moved to the A/B testing side. And we developed kind of this filter suggestion. So if you type in hotel with pool on Google and then land on trivago, so you click on an ad, we present you with a filter suggestion. And it turned out to be very successful. Obviously, it's just for this user segment and for people searching for pools. So it's a small share of our users, but for these users, we could decrease the bounce rate by a lot, and also the interaction with the filter by a lot. And then in turn, also click outs to the actual OTAs. So this kind of a practical example from opportunity mapping, which we identified in the interviews, to solution ideation, going broad, and then testing what has most potential. And for the one with the most potential, do an actual A/B test, and then have the actual proof what it do to our product. And with that, I would like to conclude, and then we can move to the Q&A. So from our perspective, applying continuous discovery habits had a lot of benefits, and it definitely leveled up our product organization. But I would also say it's not the silver bullet. It doesn't cover all aspects of product discovery. You should consider additional frameworks and practices as well. So the main benefits from our perspective, and I think it's individual, different for every company. So we were able to increase our iteration speed by a lot with this assumption test, where we didn't do that much before. Fast and cheap iterations, better understanding of the user problem. And with these ideation sessions, also, we came up with innovative solution ideas. And it also helped us a lot, prioritization, also if you think of leadership, OKR planning, stakeholder communication, but also better alignment among product teams, because now every product team in trivago has an opportunity solution tree in a similar format. So it's easy to see what are other people working on, where there's some overlap. We all speak the common language, and we all force ourselves to think of the opportunity first before we think about solutions. On the flip side, challenges and things to consider. It definitely takes some time until you see the benefits. So I would suggest to really commit and stick to it long enough. And this probably also requires some commitment from the leadership team, so that you really do it until you see the benefits. Because in the beginning, it feels a bit artificial. Okay, let's do an interview a week. Let's map the opportunities. But it felt a bit like overhead in the beginning. But once you do it and really get into it, it really shows its benefits. I would say it doesn't address all aspects of product discovery. So if you don't do anything else, then this is not enough. It should be complemented with other practices. It also needs to be aligned with the overall product strategy. And I think this is also important. Continuous discovery habits is not a product strategy. It helps you to define like how to reach kind of your product vision and to deliver on the product strategy. But you still need to think, where do we want to be in 5 years? So what's your product vision? And what are the key strategic directions we would like to go? And this is something you need to work on with the leadership team. And this is a more high level discussion, and CDH is not the framework for that. And there are other frameworks. And of course, needs to be tailored to the context and the existing landscape. So for example, in our case, we had a very mature product. We have done a lot of research for 15 years already. So we knew the opportunity space already quite well. And for us, the focus was a bit more on coming up with innovative solutions. If you're a very young company and you haven't understood your product, your problem space that well, then this should be the focus. And with that, probably the application of CDH might differ depending on your context. Basically, what I had to share, and looking forward to the discussion.
Thank you, Sören. So if you unshare, then I can quickly share on my side, and then we can open up the Q&A part. Cool. Cool. So I just wanted to say that was a really great discussion, Sören. I think a lot of us know a lot about like not a lot, but some of the academical type of side of things, and you really went into the practical side of things. And I think that was really interesting and very cool to see. So thank you for sharing that with us. We're going to open the Q&A session now, and I've seen that there are some questions that are coming through already, but I'm just going to give everyone a little bit more time to formulate the questions in their head. If you're on Zoom, you can also unmute yourself and ask the question when we get there. But just like 2 minutes, I'm quickly just going to run through a little bit more about product people to help you think, and then the rest of the time we can use for the Q&A. So product people, when is the best use cases and times that you can talk to us so that we can come and help your company? So as an interim product manager or product leader, so when you're busy trying to hire and it can take quite long, then we can help out in that time there, because usually it can take you from 3 to 9 months to hire someone. When your product leader or product manager is going on parental leave and you need someone to cover in there, then that's also where we could be very helpful, as a product coach or consultant, or as a product discovery lead as well. These are some of our B2C clients that we've worked on, and I think most of you know a lot of these companies as well already. And these are some of the B2B clients that we've worked with previously. Some of the positive feedback that we've gotten, I'm not going to read through everything, but like very happy to see that we're like super fast onboarding experience, and how we've been helping teams to quickly understand how to deliver great products faster. And just very quickly, some of our stats. So you can see we're really passionate also about diversity, and 56% of our team are women in tech, and 66% of our leadership is also women. We have 40 product leaders and product managers, and we have a 71% client retention, which is also quite a good number. And this is our team. As you can see, we're quite diverse and scattered all over the world, but our main place of business is in Berlin. And you can see there's a slot open there at the bottom. So if you want to be a product manager or senior product manager for product people, you can follow this link and you can apply there. We'd be happy to look into your application a little bit and hopefully have you join this awesome team. So like I said, I went through really fast, and I'm going to go into the Q&A session now. So there's a lot of questions coming through. We'll try to see how many we can get to, because we have about 15 minutes left. The first question that we got was from YouTube, and the person was saying, on the example you shared, how did you test your assumptions cheaply specifically?
Yeah. On this one, we did one survey where we kind of asked the people, what do you expect when you come from Google? And we also did one click test where we have kind of the task. So you're coming from Google, you're typing it in, and please find a hotel with a pool. So this was kind of, we gave them a task, And then we had two versions, kind of the current version where we don't do anything and you can find the filter if you want to. And then the other version where we show the suggestion, hinting them at the filter. And then we just compared like the task success rate, and we could see like the task success rate with the suggestion was much higher. So there was a combination of survey and kind of a click test where we provided a task. So this kind of the category of unmoderated user test, which we also did with user Zoom, where you can recruit the users and then you can give them a task and base it on a prototype.
Okay, cool. Thank you. I'm just going to jump into the next questions
Sure.
because there's like so many coming through. So Hank has said, thank you for the good overview of your continuous discovery process. How do you actually do the opportunity mapping itself? And he's asking specifically, where's the starting point of this process?
Yeah, good question. I think it's not a linear process, and you start and do a couple of steps. A key source are the interviews, and what we do. So someone's doing the interviews with a couple of note takers where we just collect the notes. Then after each interview, we do an opportunity extraction exercise. So super simple, just 15 minutes, just clustering the main points we got out of the interviews, and then rephrase it as a user need or as an opportunity. And then we put it on our main board. So we're using Mural. So we have it next to the opportunity solution tree. And then once a week, we go through and like, what new opportunities have we identified and where do they fit onto the tree? So this is kind of the process from the interview. So kind of a weekly revision. But then there are other sources. Maybe we have a data analysis on how users behave and identify a new opportunity. Or we also have a big user support team. If they say, okay, 100 people have asked us for this, we would also just add it to the opportunity solution tree. So it's mainly me as a product manager and the designer, like taking care of it. But then we also have this trio meeting once a week where we say, okay, this is what we have changed on the opportunity solution tree. Sometimes there's some discussion. So this is how it is evolving. Kind of, it looks a bit different every week, basically.
Okay, cool. And then I see there's about 3 or 4 people that are asking very similar questions around the stakeholders, kind of in a way of how did you manage to persuade them to invest into this and the time that it takes and the commitment that it takes?
Yeah, I think you need some, well, at least one partner in crime on a leadership level. So in our case, it was kind of the UX lead who worked with this before and has some success stories, and kind of he convinced kind of the whole leadership team to try it, and they kind of gave the commitment, okay, let's do it. And then of course after a while they want to see some benefits, but this is what we were able to show. I think it's very important to have some leadership buy-in. So it could be head of product, head of UX, to say, okay, this is what we are going to do, to give you enough time to actually make it work.
Okay. And then also you spoke in your presentation about like prioritizing the opportunities themselves. And how did you practically go about so someone that comes in and they haven't been working on the OST themselves, they could visually look at it and see these are the prioritized opportunities. How did you practically prioritize them and what did you use?
Yeah, so we do kind of 2 prioritization frameworks. So it's very similar to what Teresa is also advocating. So ultimately, you should prioritize by the impact on the product outcome. So you have I don't know, maybe your product outcome is the decrease bounce rate, make people interact when they come to your site. So when this is your outcome, what opportunity do we think will deliver on this outcome the best? So this is kind of the ultimate prioritization, but this can be broken down into the size. So how many users would this affect? So in this filter example, for example, it was only a small share of users. But then the next criteria would be how important is it for the user? So how well do we solve it right now? And there we figured, okay, this is actually something important. And then also the strategic fit, how well does the opportunity fit to the overall vision, strategy, and positioning in the market? So these are kind of prioritization criteria we use on an opportunity level. And then we do kind of a second prioritization framework on a solution level, which is more similar to the ICE framework. So what impact, confidence, ease. So because there we also consider kind of the implementation complexity. So this is what we do, but I would like to say it's not kind of an Excel spreadsheet where we kind of come up with a score for each opportunity. It's more like relative comparison. And this is also the benefit having all of this on one page. And then it's also not hundreds, it's dozens of opportunities. So you can all keep them on your head, and relatively with these criteria in mind, what would we like to prioritize? So this is how we do it. So it's a bit messy, but we do have some structure. But I think it's also in the nature of these opportunities that you cannot come up with a clear score, which is higher priority. It also evolves once you learn and start assumption testing. Maybe you see, okay, we don't have a good solution for it, then maybe we move on. And we do flag the opportunities which are high priority in the opportunity solution tree. So this is also something we found useful. So sometimes you think of a now, next, later roadmap, and this you can easily depict in the opportunity solution tree if you kind of indicate the now, next, later on the opportunity itself.
Okay, that's really great. So I've been told that we've kind of started running out of time now, but I think everyone is so excited about this topic, and you've really made it so practical that I think it's easy to think of more questions to ask you. But we're going to stop the Q&A here. But I just wanted to say thank you so much. I think everyone appreciates. I'm getting lots of comments here saying how great it was. So thank you so much for your time, Sören, and thank you for everyone who's joined us today about this topic. We are really very happy that you discussed it with us today.
No, thank you for hosting it and all your questions. And if you have further questions, also happy to answer your questions if you reach out to me on LinkedIn or something.
Awesome. Thank you, Sören.
Well, thank you.
Okay.